We'll welcome everybody to our April meeting and anything that Madam Clerk, you've taken the roll call.
The roll's been
You
taken.
have, does anybody have any conflicts of interest in the room here before we move forward? With no presentations at this time, so we'll move to item 4.1, which is the development of commercial hangars. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please, to put it on the floor? Moved by Jared, seconded by Aaron. Okay, you have the floor. Michael. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll just give a brief summary. Michael Bradley, by the way, county or city CAO, sorry, city Brantford CAO. At least today. So, I'll just give a quick summary of this report. I actually wrote this last year and it's, happy to bring it forward. So this is basically a preliminary proof of concept. Mostly from a financial perspective on developing, what we're classing as a commercial hangar, although it's more just basically a commercial / industrial type building. We believe it would be used as for hangar purposes, commercial hangar purposes. It's a financial perspective only, so I'll just confirm that it's not an operationalized proof of concept. That would be kind of a future step. At a high level, the business case was requested last year by the board, so the business case was prepared and it's attached as well as a covering report. It outlines the costs and revenues associated with developing commercial hangar. It's assumed to be a standard, basically, what we would call an industrial base building, which is a slab on grade building. It would have steel form, insulated steel panels for cladding. And I would assume to be about 15% of finished office space and the balance being just open plant space. We would also assume further that the tenant would fit it out for their specific plant purposes. The going rate for building something like this is about $180 a square foot, acting conservatively, so that's based our financial analysis. We've also used a rental rate of $14 a square foot. That's what the market is currently paying for what we call new premium industrial space in the area. And that's based on CBRE, they're a real estate firm. That's their latest commercial sales release. Further, just a few other assumptions we made in the financial analysis. We've used a 4% interest rate for long-term financing, locked in at 30 years, which is a financing rate available to a municipality through our infrastructure Ontario's debenture program. And taxes, maintenance, insurance costs, what we generally call operating costs, of $2.50 a square foot. Again, that's fairly consistent for a new building. And we've assumed that the tenant would pay 90%. We've recovered 90% of the total TMI cost back. So that's the assumption we've made, and the financial analysis does show that it does make money. It generates a little more than $50,000 in its first year of operation after debt service, and that is on a cash basis, so it's not an accrual basis, it's a cash basis. So generally it yields enough cash to cover its costs, including financing for longer debt. So if the board does approve this recommendation, again, this is a preliminary proof of concept, just to show financially we believe it does work. Then we would go away, we would retain if the board approves this recommendation, we retain a planning consultant to help us do some what we call more in-depth site and planning analysis. We haven't built anything of this substance at the airport for several years. So obviously engagement with the county would be a fairly significant step in this process to determine what their expectations are. Some of the difficulties that I would foresee is that this is a single large parcel of land with multiple buildings on it. It's usually not supportive in most official plans, so we would need some advice from the county about that. Servicing is also an issue, stormwater being one of them that's not really been looked at the airport for some years. So we'd be examining all that at a high level. And then once that was complete, we would come back to the board with a more fulsome, what I would call business case and an operating plan to move this project forward. And then it would be the board's decision to make a recommendation to council. The last thing I'll note is, I think most of you are aware, we do have a business case that was also written more broadly for the airport for Municipal Services Corporation. This concept is consistent with that business case. That business case did have 4 what we call industrial commercial builds in it. So this was an effective subset of that larger business case. So this work wouldn't be wasted if the Municipal Services Corporation goes forward. In fact, it would be complementary to that. So that's my presentation, short presentation, Mr. Chair. I'm happy to take any questions.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Got some
we have
key
some.
members
I
here
have,
as well.
I have some. Anybody have any questions from members? We're talking about the, commercial hangars. Well, Council Martin's proposal. So can you confirm that it was 30,000 square feet?
Yeah, it's a 30,000 square foot.
So we could, if somebody said to us, we want 10,000, there's no problem doing it in 10, 10 to 10. But the initial is 30,000.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. So the $180 a square foot build cost would allow demisability.
Right.
That probably even a greater, smaller units, so could be 4 or 5 units, but certainly could be demised into 3, 4, 5 multiple units.
I guess the variable.
We'd have to know that going into it in terms of how we would lay the structure out, but fairly easily done.
Yeah, that would be the variable on doors, like if there's a 10,000, a door for 10,000, a door for 10,000, door for 10, they could go from there. So when we do this, if we approve this today at the commission level, then it goes to council for approval to spend the 12,000.
Yeah, it would go through you, Mr. Chair, it would go to committee of the whole, I believe next month, and that would be then that would be ratified by council at the end of next month. And then to obtain a consultant and start doing that work.
Perfect. Anybody else? Jared?
Actually, just a follow-up towards if the way the building would be built, split it up with all of that air side access with plenty to come inside doors. You know what I'm saying, if you split it.
Front doors, yeah.
You know, we can stop the back 2 tenants, or is it built in a way that all of them would get access?
Through the chair, I don't think we're even close to that
Okay.
level yet. This is really just a financial analysis, but I think in the next few months, we would start to think about position on the site, how it would access, how it would access the air side.
I think
Would
that's
access
exciting.
Anybody else? You got an easy one. Mayor, no questions on this?
Not at this stage.
Okay, so this is all we're looking for. So the motion is, put forward by Jared and Aaron, and it's right there. Jared, you want to read that?
My motion?
Yes.
No.
I'm sorry.
Go you read it?
You go ahead.
Okay, so the motion is that report 2025-248, development of commercial hangars at Brantford Municipal Court be received. The staff be directed to engage landwise planning at a cost of 12,000. That following receipt of the report in consultation with the county grant planning staff be directed to report back to the board with a final business plan and high level analysis. So, Councilor Martin.
Yeah, just one quick question. The report indicates that this was ratified by council early in 23. Why is it taking so long to get here to this stage?
So through the chair to Councilor Martin, we had multiple projects that we were working on, most notably the T hangar construction project that really took the majority of our time. Then we ended up coming back to the board to give 3 options. And then one of the options that staff recommended at the time were that we put this on hold so we could focus on the MSC. It was at that point that the board decided that we continue to move forward with this regardless, to which we did. It was just a matter of staff timing priority. And it was, yeah.
Through the chair, I mentioned that when I started my skill before you got here, Counselor, that I wrote this last year, and then I well, most people were aware, I left for a while, so
Yeah.
I got back and I heard that there was interest in this coming forward, and we got it back on, put it in front of the boards.
I'm just surprised it's taken this long to come to the board since the report was ready years ago.
Yeah, I'm not sure, so.
Okay. And the other thing, is suggesting a completion date of 2028. I would think a simple building like this would build fairly quickly, which it'll do, have it finished quite a bit before that.
Sure. What I can say is I was in this business for a while, I was in semi-retirement. It takes about 16 months to build one of these.
Okay.
Mostly there's between site work and then physical erection of the building. So, and then we would need, I would say, some time on the bookends of that. So I don't think a 2-year build is probably realistic.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the motion is on the floor. We'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you, everybody. We are now on to consent items. And we have 3 items for consent. I need a mover and second to put all 3 of those on the floor. Moved by Councilor Martin, second by Aaron. Okay, so 3.1 is facilities update. Sheldon? You have the floor. Maybe you don't have the floor.
Oh, sorry. My mute button was not working. Sheldon McDonald, manager of facilities. We're currently managing status quo of our projects with a few small notes on Appendix A. Just still waiting on Enbridge for disconnection for the demo permit for 190. And the crack ceiling closes this week. So we'll have more updates later this week regarding that.
Okay, so everybody has a report there, including the spreadsheet. So I have some questions on it. Does anybody else have any questions? Councilor Martin, you have the floor, sir.
Yeah, the demolition of the former records building, it says waiting on Enbridge. For the T hangers, we were told we were waiting on approvals from the county, and then we found out that the application hadn't even got in yet. How long is this, have we been waiting on Enbridge, and do they have all the information that they need?
So through the chair, when I was speaking with the demolition contractor, they have spoke with Enbridge. Enbridge has come out and done a site inspection. They don't anticipate much from them before May 20th, and then that's to complete the Schedule D, at which point can be applied to the county for the demolition.
So there's still some steps to go through there.
The Schedule D is part of the demolition permit.
So we should have the demolition permit by the end of May?
I did speak with the county this morning as well. They are, from what I understand, just waiting for the direction on the sanitary line as well. I don't see why we shouldn't, but I can't really speak to how fast that process will be.
Okay, and you're answering the county question about the sanitary then?
Yes, they were just wondering where the sanitary line fed from 190. We're working. I got a team out at the airport right now working to discover that.
Okay, and this chart shows that the commercial lease review and fees and charges bylaw review is complete. Why has that not come to the board if it's complete?
So through the chair, the councillor, that was our project that we worked on where we amended the fees and charges and we took the medium-sized T hangers with power outside of the fees and charges bylaw and put them on just a traditional, I guess the market rates, we'll call it, for the commercial hangers. Sorry, the commercial hangers outside of the fees and charges bylaw, and we amended some of the hanger rates. That project has been completed.
And did a report come to the board about that?
Yeah, I came to the board and went to council and it was
Okay.
discussed heavily at council and officially.
I guess I was expecting something different there. Okay, thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? Sheldon. Mayor Davis, you have the floor, sir.
Yeah, I recall that last year another initiative was appraisal. Very important. Where's that at? It's stuff.
So 30 Mr. Chair, so the appraisals are complete. So we have a land appraisal and a business appraisal as well. So we're ready to bring back the appraisal as well as the kind of preliminary kickoff for the Municipal Services Corporation. We were actually going to do that this month just because of competing work on mostly on my plate for the sports entertainment complex. We have bumped that a month, but I think you would probably be seeing that next month. But the appraisals are complete. We've had a couple discussions with the appraisal team. We're satisfied with them, and we'll be including them in that kickoff report of the MS to the MSC to the board next month.
And then on an unrelated matter, but you dealt with this at the board meeting last month that I was and that. Recall there were some capital improvement projects, lighting and we're running through that sort of thing, that we were looking for some cost estimates with a view to potentially approaching On the Brantford proposal, the system funding of those particular projects, where's that at?
Mayor Sheldon?
Sorry, I wasn't sure. That was part of, Sean has that on his management update as well, but we did have another contractor out to give us a Class C estimate based on the existing infrastructure that's on site. Sean and his team did meet with them. He may be able to provide a little bit more update. I expect to have pricing within the next week or so from them.
So we expect that on the agenda for next month's meeting?
I do hope to, yes.
Sean, you want to jump in here for the mayor?
Yeah, just real quick, the only real extra development is that this company that we met with this time around they're putting together quotes for runway lighting, approach lighting, the PAPI VASI system. The more interesting thing is they have some contacts with Environment Canada. So we do have an Environment Canada weather station on site at the airport, but it lacks the equipment needed to meet what we would need for an AWAS system. He sounds reasonably confident that they might be able to actually upgrade that equipment instead of starting from scratch and develop things for quite a bit cheaper than starting from scratch. So that's an interesting development. So looking forward to seeing what they have.
So Sheldon, could you add that onto this spreadsheet, please? And maybe you can remove the commercial lease and review line out of there, fit that in. Is that okay?
Yes, I can do.
Thank you. Okay, no more questions there. Sheldon got off easy, obviously. Should have had a rougher time, but it is what it is. But anyway, so I'll call the question on 5.1. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Karen, you can put up your hand. And then with 5.2, I'll move her to seconder, put that on the real estate report. Moved by,
All three removed the ones, weren't they?
were they? Is that how I did? First mistake today. Okay, all right. So let's go to the real estate report. Ray, you have the floor, sir.
Yep, first item on my report is the budget update. We've included the budget here as a sort of reference. Any questions about the budget?
No questions on that? We got off easy.
I thought we were gonna start, but, oh, okay, I'm good.
Nope, okay.
No, continue on.
Next item is a T-hanger construction item, and we have Jen here to speak to that. Where we're at with the T-hangers.
Okay. Any questions on the T hangers? Counselor Martin.
Yeah, Ray, I asked you a while ago, who changed it from 30 to 14. Did you ever get to the bottom of that and find out how that was changed?
No, I haven't. Okay.
Oh, question there, Mr.
Yeah.
Chair.
Any other questions on the T hangers? What's the estimated date there to be completed now? So we've got an updated picture from Jamie there.
Through the chair through you to you, Chair. Currently, the anticipated completion date for hangars 4 and 6 is the end of May 2025. And for hangars 7 and 8 is the end of June 2025. We've had some slight delay with additional comments added after the site plan control application was approved. Additional comments that have come in from the building department in the county.
So these little brown triangles are gonna be filled up.
That is correct. If
Some for the end of March.
I have old eyes, but I assume that is the foundations for 4 and 6, and then the empty area for 7 and 8.
So we'll have airplanes in there. And so while we're on that, Sean, I'll go back to you or to Ray. How many have we got? People expressed serious interest.
I've got a list of about, I'd say 25, 26. I had a couple of calls before I went away
30.
last week.
Well, that's good.
Mm,
Cause I seriously don't see a problem with having one or two empty at all times, so if somebody comes down
Yeah.
with got a place for them to live, right?
And what I suspect will happen is as we go through the list, some people will pass, some people will wait for some smaller ones to open up, and there'll be a lot of movement happening. It won't be a 1 minute they're ready and the next minute they're all full,
Right.
but certainly, the message is already out there and, my phone is starting to light up a little bit about those, so.
Councilor Martin, you have the floor.
Yeah, is there anybody in the smaller hangars that want to move up to a bigger hangar?
I have two that have reached out to me now, yeah.
And the small ones run fairly quickly? Yeah, okay. Good.
Okay, so I'll call the question on race report. All those in favor, carried, and management report. John goes to Boston.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So you've all received Jamie's report there. I'll just touch on a couple of items. Like Sheldon said, crack sealing is getting started. We, met with one of the contractors. I don't know if you heard or not, Sheldon, but they came out to look at the cracks and get a better feel for what was gonna require crack filling, what was gonna require mastic approach and so on. So that's good to see action happening there. Weed spraying has already started to stay on top of it, much better this year than the previous year, so that's all on the go. With the condition of the ramp, in addition to having, the city sweeper folks out, we teamed up with our friends at Brantford and we did what they call a FOD walk, a foreign object debris walk, so we all got together to walk up and down the ramp, picking up any bits of rocks or things like that that might have been left behind. One of the challenges is the sweeper, God bless them, comes out and sweeps up the ramp, but in the process leaves behind bristles. So you have to pick up those bristles that the sweeper leaves behind too. So got the primary use of the ramp area all cleaned up. So that was great to see. Upcoming, we do have a film shoot on May 5th, quite a large film shoot. But just a 1 day shoot there at the airport, so. It looks like we can get away without shutting any runways down. We'll be using the inner taxiways as well as one of the tenants' hangars, for that shoot, so. We'll be coordinating all of that. Yeah, any other questions on there? Let me know.
Anybody have questions? I have 2 questions, but. Okay, so, on the rental. Who does that rental and where does that money go?
Rental of, for the film shoot.
Yeah.
So the city has, through the economic development, they charge a fee, I believe it's $1,200, might have gone up with the
A day?
increases, yeah. And that's dependent on, that's for like their baseline, and if there's additional stuff, then they charge more. And then we as the flying club also just charge for our staff time, whatever babysitting is required to make
And
sure
that goes
aircraft
into the-
use stuff.
The, airport reserve?
To the chair, I would assume it would, we can verify
Yeah.
that, but I would imagine it goes in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the second question was on the tie downs there. Is that the ones that's right in front of the terminal building?
They go all across the north side of the ramp.
Okay, and we rent those out for longer term, correct?
Yeah, yes, and some of it's kind of transient, some of it's for a few years at a time, but it's often for people that are waiting for a T hangar. We'll tie down for a while and then.
And you said some of them are dangerous. Is that Sheldon's responsibility to fix those? So that,
They need to be replaced. They've needed to be replaced for some time now. It's something that Sheldon and I have been talking through, trying to find a solution for, but in the meantime, we've been removing any dangerous ones that pose a threat to air traffic.
so what do we need to do to get them replaced?
So good question for you, maybe Sheldon?
As Sean mentioned, sorry, through the chair, as Sean has mentioned that we've explored several options, but we haven't really come up with the ideal solution. Being Canadian winters, they do fill with ice and such. It's been something kind of staffing constraints that have restricted us from moving forward with anything on a trial basis per se. As Sean did mention, the cables do work, but they do need to be replaced.
Okay, so when will we be doing it then?
Sorry, through the chair. Currently, I have staffing constraints. I'll be onboarding somebody else soon, so hopefully I can have a little further look at that to see what we can do about that.
Can you kindly add that to our spreadsheet that you're responsible for now?
If that is your wish, I can add that as well.
Okay, well, I find that's the best way for us to follow up on it, if we can, just add that on there. Councilor Martin, you have the floor, sir.
Yeah, when were those cables installed in the first place?
Through the chair, I believe when we did an apron project, I want to say it was in about 2012. Oh, Sean's disagreeing with me on that.
Sorry, through Mr. Chair, no, those were put in when it actually used to be grass in those areas. And it was around the time that they extended the runway, shortly after they extended the runway for the Queen's arrival in 1984. So late 80s is when those cables were put in. So they don't owe us much.
Got our money's worth out of that. Okay.
Back of that.
Any other questions on the airport management update? Thank you, Sean, Jamie. All the questions on that, all those in favor, carried unanimously. The board minutes, I have a mover and a seconder for the board minutes, moved by Councilor Martin, seconded by Mayor Davis. And any questions on the minutes? All those in favor, carried. Okay, so here's where I'm gonna need some help here because we have a notice of motion. Kristen, give me a hand here on put together from Jared in regards to fuel pumps going in. So we need to, where's my sheet gone? With we need to waive the rules to make the notice of motion become a motion. All those moved by Councilor Martin, seconded by Jared. And since it's your motion, I'll let moved by Jared and seconded by Councilor Martin. How about that? Since it's Jared's motion.
Sure.
Okay, so Jared, why don't you start off by reading your motion? And then and help me here when you want to, Kristen. And then we'll hear from Sean because there's some issues that Sean has pointed out to us, if you follow what I mean. So,
Point of order.
yes, Mayor.
We have a procedure and this guy has to follow the same procedure that when you're gonna bring a resolution, you're supposed to give a notice of motion so that we all see it, staff can see it, then it's dealt with in the next cycle. So there's lots of advances. Don't like resolutions coming up, making us all by surprise. We do allow for resolutions to be heard on very, very short notice. That requires a motion to waive the rules, which this one is, that requires a 2/3 vote. And when you have the debate on the motion to waive, you don't get into the merits of the resolution. The debate is to focus solely on why the urgency, why this is being brought forward without following the usual motion procedure.
So I will, with everybody's permission, I will let this move back to being a notice of motion that will come forward to the next meeting. So Kristen, I don't need to do anything else after that. He's provided a notice of motion and that will go on the next meeting, the next agenda.
He should read the title of his notice of motion.
Okay.
Everybody's been given the wording thus
Okay.
far, and we can amend it and talk about it at the next meeting.
Okay, so just read the title, sir.
So investigation into permanent aviation fuel tanks at Brantford Municipal Airport. That's it?
Yes. That's all we need. Good point, Mayor. Okay, so we are okay. There's no other business. We know our next meeting is in May, and it is in May 28th. So hopefully everybody will be there. And thank you, everybody. We're adjourned.